Hey citizens, Anthony the Internet Politician here, and if you saw the thumbnail, you obviously have a question, and that question is, when's the best time to file my taxes? Well, I'll tell you in a sec. The worst time to file is in April. And unless you're a senior citizen or a member of the military, that's because the tax services know that you have no choice. Unless you're going to do it yourself, they're going to take as much money as they can from you. Here's the answer to your question, and please stick around for my logic afterwards, but March is the best time to file your taxes. By March, all the early filers from January and February are already done. They've already gone through the system. They got maybe a little incentive, a discount to file early. They're gone. March is when they're going, okay, these are the people who are almost to no choice. They're the ones who are going to be looking for the deals, so we're going to offer them deals. Now, most commonly, the deals they offer are referral programs, or if you're a new client or a lapsed client meaning you hadn't been there in at least one tax year, they will offer you the biggest discount. Some people take advantage of that by jumping from tax service to tax service every year, because that's the best way to get that discount every year. So now, having said that, I should let you know, as it's becoming more and more of a problem, that you should be concerned about who's filing your taxes. A licensed tax preparer has what is called a preparer tax identification number issued by the IRS. And every year they must renew it. Also known as a PTIN or PTIN, they require it to work in these tax services. Now, if somebody is doing a filing out of their house, there's a chance they're not legit. As a tax preparer myself, I have dealt with the horror stories. I have heard people come in saying the IRS fined them and then fined the person who prepared their taxes, and that person went to jail because they did a whole lot of tax fraud. Because the IRS has various requirements for any type of federal filing. And I'm sure that it's true for the state and local governments, but the federal government it just seems a lot more determinate about punishing evildoers. So it's just something to keep in mind. Now, when we talk about your filing fees, you get charged for filing state and local typically at a fixed rate. So unless you have multiple states in which you lived, or local cities or towns or whatever that you lived in, each of them collecting their own taxes, you should only have to worry generally with one state and one local tax filing, which keeps those costs fairly static and low otherwise. But when you go to these places and they're saying $149 to file your taxes, they're only talking about your federal. Now, the reason why they're saying $149 is because maybe that is a package deal. There's different levels of tax preparation. And the most basic is usually the cheapest, which is one W-2, which means you worked a single job during that year, and that is all you have. And that is always the cheapest, and it's typically fairly quick for them to pour through a tax document on their computer and get it done, and you're good to go. You do your state, maybe they do your local. I say get it done on the computer because everything is filed electronically at the federal and state level for most everywhere in the United States. If you live locally, like I do in North Central Ohio, there are 2 tax authorities and a number of local cities that do their own taxes. And those cannot be done online through tax services, at least here. So what happens is, for a fee, the tax services will charge you to do your local, but you still have to mail the package or the letter in, because no matter what case, be it an amended return from the federal or something state or whatever they have to do paper for, the tax services cannot mail it for you, because if it gets lost in the mail, then they become liable, and they don't want that. So keep that in mind. If you're agreeing to have city taxes done in particular, make sure you understand how it's being filed. Because again, you can probably safely assume that the federal and state are being filed electronically, but you never know with the local jurisdiction, with city, whatever, town. There's villages that don't have taxes. You may not have to file local taxes. So let's get into the breakdown of federal fees. And the fees are based on the services provided. As I had mentioned, the cheapest is the W-2, but then let's say we get into 1099s, we get into Social Security, we get into other situations. Maybe you won the lotto, may or may not have taken taxes out. All of this kind of piles up how difficult the return is, and then increases the level of fees you'll be charged for that return. So in March, typically they'll say, well, there's a cutoff. We're going to 149. Is, again, the high number I'm setting here, 149, and no matter how complicated your return is, your federal will never be higher than 149. And that is true to a point. So it changes when you become eligible for tax credits. Now, let's say you have a kid, so now you're getting the child tax credit. Let's say you're single. You're also getting a household tax credit. Maybe you're in school. Maybe you're getting an American Education Opportunity Credit or whatever it's called. Or, there could be other additional child tax credit if you have additional children. If you're taking care of a parent, maybe get the other dependents tax credit. So many credits, and every single time there's a credit added, and then the tax services will add a little bit more of a fee because it's more complicated paperwork. Again, e-filing, but you know what I mean. It's adding to the task that a tax professional has to take on. And the most basic returns for federal and state, 20-30 minutes for any decent tax professional. When we start talking these heavier groups of just massive amounts of, you got 5 W-2s, you got 3 1099 NECs. Those are for the contractors, people who just basically get paid cash. You have Social Security. Add the other things on here. We're talking, you could potentially take hours. But here's another good thing you might want to know. Tax services can also do back taxes. The IRS allows for e-filing up to 3 years of taxes. So you can do your current year and 2 additional years e-file, which makes it a lot less expensive than if they had to do it out of paper. And I should stress, if they have to do filing out of paper, oh man, you cannot imagine the fees. Now, what if you owe the government? How do you explain that? Well, see, when you do get a new job, you're supposed to receive a W-4. And by default, your employer is supposed to set your allowances to 0. That way, you're not technically claiming any dependents, per se. It seems like the easiest way to explain it. So when you claim 0, you're getting the most taxes taking out. And it's not, relatively speaking, a lot, but during the course of a year, it could be a pretty penny, depending on what your tax rate is, the lowest being about 10%. Now, this doesn't count towards the amount taken out for your Social Security or your Medicare, because those numbers are a set percentage as well. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but so we're talking upwards of 16% at the lowest level taken out of your paycheck if you claim 0. But if you claim 1 or 2, whatever, there's a chance they will take no federal taxes out. That means that federal withholding may have nothing in it, and that's when you might be in trouble. So what happens is, once they establish what your income was and you go through the process of filing your federal, it calculates what you should have paid into the system. Now, if you did not pay enough, you owe. But if you paid enough and you have extra left, that is your refund. Now, that changes. You can increase the amount from owing something to receiving a pretty healthy refund if you have those tax credits I mentioned before. So you want to make sure that you are paying your federal taxes throughout the year so you're not stuck with a problem later on. But also, isn't it nice to get a whole lot of extra money that technically is yours anyway? It's kind of like having a second bank account. They're just putting a little bit of money away from you. They'll take the fees they're owed and then give you the rest. And it's really great to do that. And even if you're self-employed with a 1099, you could potentially, if you have the credits, not have to pay. Well, technically, you'll still pay self-employment tax, but you won't owe anything to the federal government. The credits may recover that for you. So there's a lot of advantages to making sure that on your W-4, you claim 0. If your employer does not give you a W-4, request one. If they give you a bellyache about it, complain to the IRS or Jobs and Family Services or some authority who can go tell them they have to give you one, because legally they must. Anyway, remember, March. With that said, tell me in the comments your thoughts on this video. Did you like what you saw, and how was your experience with it? If you would like to see more, check out the on-screen recommendation. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel to keep up to date with our latest content. Thanks for watching.